And this is the last project I'm going to show you. So, in World War II, Hitler, what's his name, the really bad guy, in his marches to the stadium, they used, there's 5-foot diameter arc lights. So, I think it was conscious. I haven't done enough research to figure out whose good idea this was, to, in October 1945, reclaim light as good. Now maybe, it's an abomination to think about towers of light as being evil, so maybe it didn't have to be reclaimed, but I like thinking about it that way. And so this was the VE celebration, Victory Europe celebration. Now, so I show you this first because there's nothing original about what we did to make the two towers of light, and I'll tell you that story. So we got this rendering on September 19th, 2001. It came in a little envelope, and it was from somebody we knew, and they said, would you help us do this? This is what we want to do downtown. When do you want to do that? Well, we don't know. How soon could you do it? As you may, some of you may know, it was done for the first time 6 months later on March 11th. Now this is somebody's Photoshop or whatever they used, right? And someone just told me there's some errors in here, that Photoshop has been liberties taken. Well, that's okay. So of course we sat down to do a highly technical drawing. I had the wherewithal at the time. We had one, of course, we only had one pencil and 3 dots. It's true. It was a stubby red pencil that had already been used, should have been thrown out. What we're doing here is discussing what it would take to make a tower of light in the air. What would the plan look like? So this is a bunch of so-called experts sitting around doing a highly technical drawing. They're discussing whether it should be a circle, an X, or a square. So when we finished the short discussion, we agreed that we had no idea, and which I actually believe is a sign of an expert. And we figured out we'd have to do a mock-up, which we did in Las Vegas, which I'm going to show you. I had the wherewithal to take the drawing, put the date on it, and I used to show it to people. Those are the pin marks, and I would take it down and say, here, look at it. So I got to keep that. So yes, we went to Las Vegas, and the Olympics had been in Salt Lake, right? And there were a bunch of these xenon-powered searchlights. They're 7,000 watts each. They're big. They are, in fact, the size of this podium, each light. And here they are. We got a bunch. There were a bunch of them in a warehouse up in Salt Lake. They put them on a truck. The ones in Luxor were only 2Ks, I think, when they were put in. I don't remember, but these are 7Ks. They were used in Olympic Games. We got them on pickup trucks, and we got some generators, and we went out into the desert where no one would bother us, and we played around with it, and we thought it would work, although we were terrified, because remember I said in the beginning, I have chosen a career which is completely intangible. You cannot hold light in your hand. And so what are you doing? Well, you're lighting a column of dust particles or water vapor. And what will the conditions be when we do this in New York City was the question. So anyway, we did this. This is a little collage, some of which was in the New York Times. I'm not going to read it to you, but I'll explain what the diagrams are. So the upper left, I don't remember if the footprint of the towers was exactly 50 feet, but it's close to that. That's the pattern we decided. We learned in Las Vegas that we had to reinforce the corners. So if you're paying attention to the problem, you quickly understand there used to be a density at the corners as you rotate around that. This is part of the artist's submission. What they did did was they rotated and planned where the two towers were a little bit so that more residents of all 5 boroughs could see 2 towers rather than 1. So, for example, if you happen to live somewhere where you're looking like that, then you only see 1 tower. So we did a rotation which favored the view for more people, which I find very interesting. And the lower left blue thing is a story about what is in the box. You can see the plan, you can see the light bulb. I love how New York Times reduced that. The 7,000 watt xenon bulb is really a big thing, and if you're standing in front of it without a flak jacket and a helmet with a flip down thing and it explodes, it'll kill you. Bulb. And anyway, enough of this slide. You can see how it works. So here we are. It's very important to have this guy. And actually, we have a lot of those guys. So people always say, well, can we do this in my building? And I say, sure. You'll need a lot of money, and you need a permanent team on salary to mind these lights. These lights are like campfires. They have to look after them. And the light bulbs don't last very long either. Something like 2,000 hours or less, which isn't very long if you're a light bulb. And there are, in fact, you can see how they're bunched up at the corners by that layout that we worked out, which worked out pretty well. So, do you know what the hardest problem is when you want to make 2 columns of light? It's getting them to point straight up. Just think of it like a kindergarten class. Walk together. So what we did, we put spotters. He's actually working. This man is working. It's Randy. And in 2001, of course, we had to use walkie-talkies. If you can believe it, I mean, I'm waiting for my iPhone 6, and in 2001, not everybody had a cell phone, so we used walkie-talkies. So we had the walkie-talkies. And this man here is not an Indian with smoke signals. He is an electrician with a piece of plywood, and he has just lifted it up because we want to now examine whether this light is straight up and down. And the way we did that is with a Roman plumb bob. You can't see the lead, but everybody go around the city, you get 4 or 5 locations, you give them a string and a plumb bob and a little tape and a hook. And you go to people's apartments. We still do this. We have people that, make it, now it's an event. Like, oh, the lighting guys are coming over to sit and drink wine with me while they look at the string. It's really true. This is Rob, who for many years has been the kind of head guy who looks the part. He's talking, I think he's got a walkie-talkie there, and he's probably talking to Randy, who's laying on the bench somewhere with a plumb bob. So you get the idea. So we had to, you can see in this picture the string and the light. So you do that all over town. So what is this like? Well, you do 2 or 3 at a time, and you usually some colored gels we put on them. We don't do that anymore. In the early years, we got some big sheets of colored gel, theatrical gel. So you're doing the pink light, you're doing the green light. That week had 2 at once and work faster because there are 88 of them, 2 times 44. Gives you a sense of how we did it. This is the picture that you can only take if you have a little pass, because you lay down, put your camera down in the middle between the 2. How far do the lights go? They go forever. So this whole, doing this project is so rich in metaphor at so many levels that it's, I can't talk about it years later without still getting emotion. I don't think you can watch it without feeling a strange pit in your stomach and sort of, wow, power of light, lines of light, enabled us to recreate, to reify towers that were destroyed. It goes a long way. Now, it goes forever, which is another metaphor to think about, but it really goes until it's absorbed by particulate. And that depends on the cloud cover on any given night. So we have done this in years where it's raining. This is March, the first time. This is the decontamination tank. It was pretty horrible. And now we're down in a parking lot right next to the site. The site is over there on the right-hand side. Now it's been moved to a parking garage roof. No one knows where it is. I mean, it's not like a big secret, but it's about 2 blocks from the site. This is a picture. This is 2 years ago. So it depends on the particulate conditions in the atmosphere as to how much of a real, ghost-like column you get, or sometimes you get thinner lines that don't seem to go all the way up. It changes every time. I mentioned this. I've shown this little piece of this talk around the world, and in China, in Chinese culture, in the numbers, thinking of numbers, 44 is double death, and 88 is double good fortune. So there are 44 lights in each square, which was just one thing that happened. That was not something we talked about. Now today, if you go there, this is the footprint of the tower. That's a 30-foot high waterfall. This is the museum by an architect called Snow Hetta. And there's this is this last 1 year ago, this is the picture. Is that right? Yeah, because the fountain opened a year ago, and this is the picture from that week when it opened. And we've done all the lighting of these buildings that I've shown you, including the plaza here, which has been quite an honor and a big job to do. One of the things we learned is one of the great things about waterfalls is they move in the wind. So when you go and see this, you can see that. So it is quite a stunning example of the power of light to have a fantastic impact on us. It will be rebuilt. The SOM Leipzig building is up. The Foster's building is at level 7. They had to build everything up to level 7 because it's kind of a good idea, but they distributed the HVAC and certain other services into all 4 buildings of the new towers. And so you couldn't not build a tower whether you had a tenant or not, or you couldn't air condition the subway. So I think that the most interesting building which has been opened is the Lockheed building, which I'm a big fan of. And of course the Rogers building is coming along. Now you can't end a talk on that because it's just too silvery. So I want to give you a demonstration of how, I have 2 more slides. So this is a famous picture. I don't know, most of you probably know it. If you don't, students, you should. Now, this is certainly something they worked on doing. And all the examples that I talked about are here, really. You've got a ground, a classic artist ground. You have the lighting of the planes behind, and you have Picasso transforming space in front of these planes with a line of light in a time-lapse photography where the flash is firing in a way, carefully done flash to get in and repeated like that, and the time exposure happening to capture the whole world. Now, we're not Picasso, but I got a bunch of lighting designers together. Here I am. And you know those novelty cubes with the LEDs in them? Well, if you put 2 of them behind your head and 2 of them in your hand and do a couple of practice runs, you can write, magic. Well, thanks for my little talk, for coming to my little talk, and I'd like to have some questions if there are any, but I used up my 48 minutes.